Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome on in to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. No Morgan today, just me, Rick. Hope you guys are all doing well. Morgan is currently training for a marathon, stuck with some work, and then there's me, sick. So what else to do but podcast, right? So we got a lot to talk to today. We got some waiver wires. So some waiver wire ads and don't ads. But before we get into all that, make sure you do the following. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, Twitter at the FF Champs, Instagram at the Fantasy Champions, Facebook.com/thefantasychamps, TikTok at the FF Champs. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review, share with your friends. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and like and comment below. Had a big week. A lot of interesting things going on. And we're really in the thick of it with the waiver wire. I think at this point we've picked up probably guys that are worth picking up. But at the same time, with the bye weeks really getting into it and injuries still being as prominent as they are, the waiver wire is still very, very important right now. So without any further ado, let's go take a look at it. So just going on Sleeper and looking at some of the trending players, we'll start off with the running back position. And the number one guy on this list is Tank Bigsby. Had a really, really good week, 2 touchdowns for over 100 yards. Travis Etienne was limited in this game with a shoulder injury, but he, I think, was also battling a shoulder injury going into the week and then kind of re-aggravated it. Only had a 38% snap percentage and something to monitor. Tank Bigsby's probably already owned in your league. Or maybe not, because on Sleeper, I guess he's only owned in 34% of leagues. He should be owned for sure. He's kind of a high-level handcuff, and I think that's really all he is as long as ETN is healthy. I know he had a really good week, and there was talks going into the season that they wanted to use him, and he did have 12 carries in week 1, so he is kind of involved in the offense, but not enough when ETN is out there to really have standalone value, but should still be rostered because of situations like this. If Travis Etienne misses this week, Tank Bigsby's probably a top 12 running back, or if not a top 12, at least a top 20. He's somewhere in that high-end RB2 range with a full workhorse, because even though Jacksonville has been bad this year at 1-4, their offense is not terrible. They haven't had any big games out before this week, but playing against tough defenses like Houston and Cleveland, they were still able to move the ball for the most part. And this past week against the Colts, they obviously had a monster week, putting up 37 points. So they have the potential to have big weeks like they did this past week. Chicago is kind of a tough matchup, so I don't think he'd be a top 12 running back this week, but should definitely be worth an add. Another guy is Rico Dwaddle. Dwaddle is somebody that I think we talked about in the past that he should have been drafted, should have been picked up. And if he's still available in your league, you 100% should take him. He got the most work he's gotten all season with 22 touches and 20 carries, which is really surprising. As someone who was drafting Rico Dwaddle in kind of the later rounds, I was not expecting him to be a guy getting 20-plus carries, but if he's doing that, should be must-owned. I think the thing with Dwaddle is, and we had said this before, like he's on the Cowboys, a team that is pretty good offensively, and they don't really have a running back to go to. Zeke is kind of washed. Dalvin Cook is on the practice squad, but Rico is the youngest with the most upside in that room, and it looks like Zeke is getting less and less work every week, and Rico's getting more and more. So a situation to monitor. Should 100% be on your roster. I don't think he's a must-start player on a week-to-week basis, but especially the way running backs are in this league, Rico Dwaddle is a must-add for sure. I think if I was putting priority on any of these guys, Rico would be my number one add at the running back position. Another guy, Roschon Johnson, who's third on this list, had 2 goal line touchdowns this week, had a goal line touchdown the week before. They clearly want to involve him more, but Swift has been the better of the backs last 2 weeks. I'm still not going all in on Roschon. This is a guy I'd probably let other people pick up. Herbert is still there. Swift is there, obviously. And although he's been putting up points, he's been scoring goal line touchdowns. It could be a trend that continues. As long as they're on the goal line, he might be getting all the work. But I don't think he's anything really more than a handcuff still at this point. And even then, he's not like a pure handcuff because of Herbert. So less excited about Roshan Johnson than I am Rico and even Tank Bigsby. He'd probably be third. I don't think I would pick him up. And if you do want to pick him up, I wouldn't put any significant waiver budget on him. I think Rico should be your top priority at the running back position, and then Tank Bigsby would be second if he's there. And another guy who I think might be higher than Tank Bigsby for me, he's probably second or third on the list for running backs, is Tyrone Tracy. 14 fantasy points this week without scoring a touchdown. He had 7 yards per carry, 129 yards rushing. No Devin Singletary, obviously, this week, but he played so well. He's a rookie running back. I could see him potentially taking over Devin Singletary's spot. I think Dayball was talking about he earned a spot on a week-to-week basis, and they were impressed with his game. So he's kind of like Tank Bigsby, where he's just a handcuff on, I think, a regular basis. But he played well enough where there's a better chance, I think, for him overtaking Singletary than Tank Bigsby overtaking Travis Etienne. So definitely worth a pickup in my opinion, and probably would be the second guy on this list. And that's pretty much it. The other guys remaining are owned in most leagues. So in order of the trending running backs on Sleeper, I'd go Rico should be your top priority, followed by Tyrone Tracy, Tank Bigsby third, and then Roshan Johnson fourth. Looking at some of these receivers, Jalen Tolbert 100% should be owned, especially with Brandon Cooks out. He's the clear wide receiver 2, caught a touchdown this week in this offense. And going up against Detroit is a pretty good matchup. You should be looking at Jalen Tolbert to get at least, I think, 6 targets a game going forward, 5 or 6 targets. And with the way the Cowboys play, they like to throw the ball, and they like to throw the ball downfield. So Tolbert could have some big games like this past week. I don't think it's a fluke. Is he going to be a consistent player? No, but should definitely be worth a pickup. Number 2 wide receiver on a pretty good offense. And I think Brandon Cooks is on IR, so he could miss significant time. And even when Cooks comes back, is very old, I think Tolbert has taken that number 2 spot. So 100% worth a pickup. The number 2 guy on the trending list is already owned in 66% of leagues, so I won't talk about him too much. But if he's owned in your league, Darnell Mooney, like, what are you doing if he's not owned in your league? If he's available in your league, he needs to be picked up. He's probably a weekly flex at this point. He's wide receiver 15 on the year. He was picked up in our league. Actually, I think he might have drafted in me and Morgan's league. So, yeah, definitely a guy who should be rostered. I don't think he's going to finish as wide receiver 15, obviously, but could be a week-to-week flex option for you. He's the wide receiver 2 on an Atlanta offense that throws the ball just as much as Dallas. And Mooney, I think, is a better overall player than Tolbert. So Mooney, if he's available, 100% should be picked up. Right here, McLeod is the third guy on this list, just the Falcons receivers. Definitely less excited about him. He's the clear third receiver on that team. Should he be picked up? Maybe. He hasn't had a touchdown yet this year, and he's putting up decent numbers with 12 and 11 points the last 2 weeks. Pretty good slot receiver. Could be a volume guy. Not itching to pick him up, though, but something to monitor for sure. Number 4, Darius Slayton. I wouldn't be too excited about Slayton. I know he had a big week, but with Neighbors out of the lineup, Slayton kind of became the primary X receiver. When Neighbors comes back, Slayton will not be in that role, and he'll kind of go back to what he was doing. So I would not pick up Darius Slayton. Number 5, owned in most leagues, but still not a lot, 54%, is Josh Downs. And Josh Downs, if he's available in your league, kind of like Mooney, must-start guy or must-pick-up guy. Not a must-start guy, unless Joe Flacco continues to be the quarterback. As long as Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback, Josh Downs must-start player every single week. But with Anthony Richardson in there, I definitely would not consider Downs a must-start, but should still be rostered for sure. Number 6, might get some flack for this because I have a feeling Morgan would disagree with me. But I like this player, and I think he should be picked up. That's Juju Smith-Schuster coming into a bye week. With Rashee Rice out for the season and the NFL trade deadline, I want to say is week 6 or 7. It's coming up. Unless the Chiefs trade for a receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster rest of the season is going to be their starting slot receiver. If you take a look at what he did with his last year in Kansas City, in his only year in Kansas City in 2022, he is wide receiver 27 with 3 touchdowns, but had 78 catches for almost 1,000 yards. I think that's probably what he's going to be. And if he's doing that as the primary slot receiver, he should 100% be rostered. He had 20 fantasy points this week without scoring a touchdown. 7 catches for 130 yards. Again, is he going to be doing that on a weekly basis? No. Is he the same player he was 5 or 6 years ago? No. But in the role that he's in the Kansas City Chiefs offense, he should be picked out 100%. And it's kind of gross and sad as a Patriot fan, but should still 100% be on fantasy rosters. And I think, obviously, Mooney and Josh Downs would be higher in the priority. And I think Jalen Tolbert's probably higher in my priority as well, but Juju's right there with him. There should be waiver budget used on him. Then there are some guys, Xavier Hutchinson's on this list. Not really someone I'm looking to pick up. Romeo Doubs is on this list. I do think Romeo Doubs, been dropped in a lot of leagues, could be worth a pickup. Coming off of his suspension, he's had some targets. He just hasn't really scored any touchdowns. He's not somebody I'm excited about, but with Christian Watson out, I think he's still one of those top 3 receivers on Green Bay in a high passing offense. So could be worth a pickup, but not super excited about him either. So on this list of the guys available, I would probably have Mooney 1 if he's somehow available. Josh Downs 2. Those are the clear guys. And then Tolbert and Juju 3 and 4. I'd be willing to put waiver budget on both those guys. And I would also pick up a guy like Romeo Doubs. Probably not spending any budget on him, though. And same with Alec Pierce. Alex Pierce is another guy. Like, kind of gross. He's been getting a lot of touchdowns, but he's a big play player. He's not a volume guy. So if you want to take a risk on a week, you're doing bad, you're just a boom play, he wouldn't be bad for a pickup and start, but wouldn't put any waiver budget on him either. And then we'll quickly talk about tight ends here. Tucker Kraft, dude, 67% fantasy leagues. Hopefully you picked him up last week. I tried. Somebody else in our league picked him up instead. And they had a monster week with him, scoring 24 fantasy points. He's not doing that every week, but he is taken over as the starting tight end. There was talks about Luke Musgrave all offseason, but in reality, it was Tucker Kraft's job. He's the starting tight end. On a Green Bay offense, as I just mentioned, very high passing volume. Jordan Love, when he's out there, puts up like 280 yards a game. So as long as he's doing that with multiple touchdowns, Tucker Kraft is going to be very involved. Is he going to be the tight end 3? Is he going to be putting up weeks like he has been? I don't think so. But the way the tight end market is, I think he will finish as a low end tight end 1. And he'll have some weeks where he's going to be kind of touchdown dependent, but will have plenty of touchdowns on the season. Brenton Strange, number 2, continues to play decent, but that's without Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram's coming back this week. I would not pick up Brenton Strange. And the last guy is probably Tyler Conklin. I had picked him up and then dropped him this week. Was going to start him with Dallas Goedert on the bye. Picked up Cole Kmet instead. Conklin had a couple more fantasy points, but they're pretty similar. I don't hate him for a plug and play in a week-to-week basis. He actually gets a lot of targets in this Jets offense, and I think the touchdowns will come. So I don't mind Conklin as a plug and play option. But Tucker Kraft should be number 1 on this list if he's already rostered and you're just looking to plug and play a tight end. I think Tyler Conklin's not too bad of an option for you. And then I'll give you one quarterback as my start of the week. Everybody's going to say Kirk Cousins against Carolina. It's hard for me to say that because I don't know, man. It feels like a game where Atlanta could get up early and just run the ball. I think it's rare to see games where like a guy like Cousins, I think in this offense too, is going to throw 500 yards and then they not run the ball the next week. I feel like this is one of those get right games for Bijan in the running game. I definitely don't hate the idea if you need a quarterback to pick up Kirk Cousins. He'll probably be good to get you 15-ish points. I would love Joe Flacco if he starts this week. That dude is just throwing up numbers when he's out there. I mean, even last year at Cleveland, he came in, was throwing 300 yards a game. This year, with the Colts' first game starts, throws 360 yards passing and 3 tutties. Like, in fantasy, he's the best plug and play guy when he becomes the starter. Because even if he stinks, he's still going to put up 300 yards. He's just going to throw 3 interceptions. At this point in his career, he just chucks it. So it's great for fantasy. And if he starts this week, he would actually be my best streaming option. But if not, then go pick up Kirk Cousins. And with that said, I think that'll do it. Some good options this week to pick up. Don't be afraid to use some of that waiver budget. We're getting into the nitty gritty of the season, and you need to pick up guys and win games while you can. So, without further ado, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll talk to you Thursday. Me and Morgan will be back on. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.